Hi, this is Flo. Now, there has been a lot of talk on whether Cricut Access is worth it. Now, basically, what we've got in Cricut Access is hundreds of thousands of images that are like this particular one on the right here. They come straight in from your images or your projects, and they are able to be cut straight away. They're already attached, as you can see down here, they're already attached, and it can be just cut straight away, no problem. You load it in and you can cut it. They're all scored with Cricut scoring lines, and you just need a scoring stylus or a scoring roller, and there's no problems with that. They'll cut, you can put them together, and if you've got your workstation set up well, it'll take you about 5 minutes. Now, these are great little popcorn cups, and I've made them many times. What I'm going to show you today is that SVGs aren't equal. So you will find that I've got a number of different types. They're all SVGs, but they're all different projects. If we take this particular SVG, you can see that it's all down here. It's called a Disney popcorn box, so it's basically exactly the same as the one that comes in from Design Space. However, first of all, you have to pay for it. And I believe its price in US dollars was $3.50, which makes it about $4.50 here in New Zealand. Now, once you get it in, the next thing you've got to do is work out which ones are the cut lines and which ones are going to be your score lines, because otherwise it will just cut it all into pieces. Now, if we select this one, because this is actually grouped, you will find it selects all the score lines and you can change them all together. If you also look over on the basic cut one, it will show these as green, whereas if you come down to the cut line, it'll show that as yellow. So an idea is to look at the cut lines and see if they're green. Have a look at your entire project and see if it's grouped. If it's grouped, it'll show ungroup up here, and you can then just select this part of the file. You can see that it's all green because it doesn't have a question mark there. You can select the operation and come down and go score. Now, you would think that maybe that's finished, but no. Once you've got the scoring in, and it's now Design Space scoring, so although that it looks dashed, it will score as one solid line. You've still got to come down here and attach it. Now, if you don't do that, we'll just have a look at where it's going to show over on the Make It screen. So we'll head to the Make It screen, and the first thing we see is lots of scoring lines that haven't been changed to scoring lines. They're basic cut lines. This one could be ours, but because I've got a number of different things on the mat, we don't know which one is ours. So what we've got, we know those are scoring lines, and we just changed ours to scoring lines. And coming across here, we've got a number of other things, but I think our one was yellow, so our scoring lines must be somewhere in there, and that's when you have to go back and find where they are. So we go back to our screen, and this is our yellow Disney popcorn box, and once we attach it, we will go over to the Make It screen, and let's have a look at our yellow one. Whoops, wrong yellow one. There we go. And our scoring lines are now in there. And now we're at the same point as if we had a popcorn box straight from Cricut Access. However, we've spent a little bit more time in getting it accurate, and possibly because we didn't know that the scoring lines weren't attached, we may have cut it and not had scoring lines in there at all, which means then that you either have to put them in by hand or you have to come back and forward until you find them. So that's the next time. This is the Cricut Access one, the one in the pink. It's in the pink. This is a yellow one. Now, this one again has got solid scoring lines, which is what this one has. Now, if we select this one, you'll see that it's got two basic cut lines in ones you can't really see, so you're thinking that they might be score lines, and then it's got your basic cut, which is in the brown colour. Now, if we go to this one, there's no colour at all here. And if we go to this one, again, there's no colour at all. Now, in order to figure out which ones of these are score lines and maybe which ones are cut lines, you could put some of them as cut lines. Now, this top one is called a basic cut, and in order to see what a basic cut is, I will often turn them to pen lines, and then with the dark colours, I'll put on a colour like yellow. Now, what we can see now is that these are just place markers. Now, you could score them, you could cut them, or you could put them in pen if you've got a pen that will mark just similar to the colour that you're cutting. So that's fine. This has obviously got a little piece that goes around the middle. However, we've still not got our score lines, and we've got to come back to this one and select this one, and again go up and do our score lines. And they've now changed to score lines. So that's fine. Again, we have to select all of these, and you'll see that it's grouped because it says ungroup up here. So it was in a group. So if I select the rust one down here of this, it selects the whole group. It doesn't select out the pen or the score as a separate group. So we still have to attach that. Once we've done that, we can then go through to the cut screen, and once attached, you'll find that these all mark in the right place. And going through to the cut screen, you will find that when we look at our brown one, it will tell us that it's going to score, it's going to write, and then it's going to do the basic cut. So we know that that's how it's going to work. So we're going to come back again now, and we're going to look at a different one. So this one here is a little bit more difficult than this one, but it's still certainly within the realms of most people who want to do something in Design Space that you don't find in Cricut Access, or that's a freebie from somewhere. If it's a freebie, fine. If you're looking for something in Design Space, as I say, Design Space is much easier. Now I've got a little base here in this yellow one, and I'm going to show you that this looks as if it's got a score line on. Well, they are score lines, but in actual fact, this one is a cut score line. So if you just want little cut score lines in it, that's fine, and they do bend quite easily. But you do need to use thick paper for this, because if you're not using at least 200-gram cardstock, you will find that this makes a lovely little zip, and it can just fall apart. So the reason we know that it's a cut score line is there's nothing but this. Now, the easiest way to do this is to use our Design Space, and I'm going to bring this up to about 400, I think it shows me. And when it comes up to 400, let's see if it'll go a little bit higher for me. And you can see there, if you look very carefully, that these are little square boxes that are cut out of the base piece of this one. So it doesn't need attaching, and it doesn't need your score tool put in. However, you do need to monitor what type of paper you use and what the weight of your paper is. Now I'm going to use this one. Now this is a lovely letter. I'm going to pop these out of sight so that I can work on this one. And again, you'll see that this is the whole piece. So it's again grouped. So this time I'm going to go ungroup. This one's from Miss Mandy, and Miss Mandy's ones are all free. Well, most of them are free, and she's got some lovely files in there. So I'm going to go ungroup. And to do that, I'm going to take these two away. And we can see now that this, if we look over onto our layers panel, you'll see that it's got a basic cut and a basic cut. And yes, both of these are basic cuts, but we need to ungroup them again. Now, the more complex the image you're doing, the more complex it gets. And if you look at this, or if we look at this and we make it a little bigger, you can see that there are pieces up here that stick out, that make little tabs, which go in behind this letter because this letter goes on top of it. However, there are no score lines on this, so that can make it a bit difficult because there's not a straight line on any of these. So if you do want your score lines on those, you'll have to put them there yourself. So these are the other parts of it, and if we select just this one, we can see again it has already grouped. And if we select these, you'll see that this cut is green, this cut is green, and this cut is green. And if we select this, the first three all highlight, and your basic cut, which is the square reddy coloured one, dark pink one, has got nothing on it. We can now go through and we can change them to score lines because that's what we're going to do with them. We're going to score them. So again, what we have to do is we have to make the score lines, make sure that they're attached. So this one has to be attached. So you can do these individually so that you can put them on in various different ways. But if they remain basic cuts, they'll just cut your piece together. And you then have to read the instructions on how to put this all together. You may want to do 2 of these bases and 2 of the top ones. You may want to do those in a patterned fabric or a patterned paper. And you may also want to put score lines down here. You may find that going against a more solid piece of paper, you can put those score lines in anyway. And then these go around in the centre and around the outside. So they all have to be put together. And as I said, these ones, they've got score lines you've got to put in and score lines you've got to change again. And there's another little piece down here. Now, again, they are easy enough to do. You do need to work out which parts are score lines and which parts are cut lines. If you want to find out what a score line is, so we'll just put that over here, we'll detach this again and we'll work on this. And say I wasn't sure which ones were score lines, I could come over here, I could select the pen, and then I could select a colour of pen, and let's make it the yellow so it stands out. And you can see that, yes, this has gone yellow, so we know that that should be a score line. It's not an outside cut. So we can change that back again then to a score line, and again attach it, and we're ready to cut once we've completed that whole thing. One of the things that you will find is that before it's attached, so we'll just detach it again, when we have this one piece, we can look at this And if we select this bottom one, you'll find that because it says it's a grouped image, this bottom one selects the score lines and it leaves the cut outline at the bottom, so you can change those all together. And one I will show you shortly will be much more complex, so you'd use that even more. So this is again another one that most people could work out and do that. And now let's have a look at a few others. There's this one that we've done, and you might want to go back and forward through this, or otherwise you might just want to stop and say, I know all about that. This is the pink image is not the same, of course, but the blue image and the green image in this one. Let me just move this out of the way. And in this image, these pieces go as the top piece, and they are layers that go on the top. And you can see that this particular one has got little dots in it. And if you come down here to the pink elements, you can see there's a basic cut and a basic cut. So again, these are cut lines. You can go to take them to straight score lines. However, if you do that, they will score as little short score lines, and that does take a lot of time up. So again, you can leave those as cut lines if you want to. The only way you can take them out is by welding another piece of image into there, or just simply take the eyeball off and they won't be there, and you can just do them yourself. So we'll put that one back on. Now, as you see, this one is grouped again. So if we just select the elements blush, I would have thought that it's grouped, so this one would show up, but no, it doesn't. So when you have a rule that says it does one thing, sometimes it just doesn't do it. Now, these are exactly the same as each other. Right, these are exactly the same as each other. You will find that one has got dashed score lines, and if we look at this, they are cut score lines. So if you don't have a scoring tool or a scoring wheel, you can put these in, and again, as I say, if you are looking at doing these cross over and they're very fine, you would need to monitor the paper in the grams that you're using, and preferably do it in at least 200 grams. You may even find that with a little bit of pressure on these, they may split or tear. However, this one is from the same author, but what he does is that he does solid score lines. Now, it looks exactly the same, but when I choose the basic cut, there's nothing beside it. The second basic cut is green. So I'm going to choose the top one, and to ensure that I've got the right one while I'm doing it, I'm going to come down and I'm going to choose a pen, and then I'm going to choose a red. And when I look at it, I can say, yes, that's exactly what I wanted. I want those to be score lines. So I go back up to my green one and I use the pen, and I take the pen now and I turn them to score lines. Now they look very similar because these are straight score lines that will be done by your Cricut with either your scoring stylus or your scoring blade, which is your scoring rotary blade, and it does a lovely score on your things. Again, this one will need to be attached, and so will this one. So if I go and don't have these attached, I've attached all the rest of them, I think. I don't think I've attached that one, so let's attach that one. And at this point, I should only have the blue one unattached. So let's have a look and see what happens with that. So we're going to go down here. First of all, we're going to go to the white one, and as you can see, we've got lots and lots of little tiny lines. We're not quite sure why we've got two little lines up there, but if we come down, you can see that the green one, which we changed, these ones. Now, this one obviously did have some scoring lines in there that we haven't attached. So, and here we have the scoring lines from the one we were just working on. Now, they've all been attached to each other and they are all lovely there, but they're not in the right place. Now, you may be able to pick this up and put it across on top of there and have them do that. But as you see, they're still basic cuts and that will cut it. You do need to make sure that this is very accurately placed or you won't be able to do the things in the right place. However, come back to your canvas again and you can just simply select it and attach it and you will have them all in the right place. Now, these are all relatively simple SVGs and people are getting more and more where they want to do some really exciting things, and I've been doing low poly things, which are things like 3D paper sculpture. Now, I love doing this. I've always loved working with paper, and I'm going to put this one down because I've got, it's going to tell me I haven't got it up. Now, this is, there's two SVGs here. You can see that if I select one, they're actually quite big files. It tells me they're big files when they come in. They do come in as white. Now, you will see that they are what I would call astronomically large files, particularly this one, because it's got so many numbers. Now, each of these numbers, when I put them into the layers panel, will have its own layer. Now, we'll start off with this one. This one says green colour, who the copyright is, and what page number it is, because it's one of 25. So I had 25 of these, which I needed to change. So the first thing I did was find the colour, and this, I now know, was the top piece, which says green colour. Now, if I select this, it shows the top and bottom, and it comes all the way down. Now, you've got to remember that each one of these that is selected in the layers panel is a separate layer for the Cricut Design Space to draw and cut. Now, these particular ones you don't want to cut, but in order to find out whether I've got the right piece, I'm going to change this to a pen yet again. And this time I'm going to change it to a red pen, and I'm going to see what parts highlight. And the top and the bottom highlight. I decided I didn't need to select a green colour. I would hold that as the green colour, and what I would do is I would make the pieces that were in the piece, these numbered pieces, the 15, 17 and 25A, I would make so that they were green. So we come back and we select this first. We go right back up to the top and hello, here's our piece that we've got, and now it's red, right? So I'm going to keep that selected, but what I'm going to do now is I'm either going to take out the eyeball so that they disappear, or I select it and I delete it. Now, because I deleted it, I could bring it back by undoing it, but I can't just undelete it once I move on. So the next thing I want to do is find out what the next pieces are. So this to me looks like it could be the numbers. So there's a special thing that we do with numbers. Number one, we've got to put them in pen so that we can actually see them, because if you cut them out, you've got a whole lot of little cuts in there. Now, we don't want them in cuts. We don't want them scored because they're far too little to see. However, if you can get an 0.3 pen, they are really good. There are a couple of places that sell 0.1 pens, and I'm hoping to get those soon. Now, if we take a look at this particular one, I will increase its size so that we can see it. And you can see that on these lines, the numbers are red, but it's also got a little circle on the scoring line. And on some of the scoring lines, it doesn't have it, and some of it does. This, in this particular designer's repertoire, shows that this is either a mountain or a valley fold. It's a mountain fold if it's got a circle on it. It's a valley fold if it hasn't. And that's the way you tell whether you've got mountain or valley folds for this particular one. Now, when I said before that when you come in and you've got all of these red little notes down here, you've got them all showing up pen, and you can see that there's a huge number of layers. The more layers you have, the longer it will take Design Space to assess them and draw them on, number one, your screen, and then draw them itself. So one of the things that you can do with the numbers is that if we come all the way back up here again, and you can see the length of time that this will take when you do it, I'm going to select just that bottom one, that's the numbers, and I've got them as numbers, I've got them as pen, and now I'm going to go weld. Now, you can't do this with your scoring, but in a few seconds, yes, that's how long it took to redraw the screen, you will see that these have now gone, as we know, when we weld two or three things, they go to one image. Now, it's taken all of those numbers and this writing, and it's changed it to one image. This makes it so much easier for Design Space to cope with all those things. Now, I'm going to show you some more things. Whoops. As you see, once we've got these, we've also got to be very aware that we've got to be careful with the numbers, because we could move them if we're not careful with them. Now, what I want to do is, whoops, I've just managed to do that again. We have to put them all back where they're supposed to be, and probably the easiest way that is to do undo and then undo again, and hopefully they will go back. Right, and now they've gone back. Again, we're going to look at the group that we're working on, and let me just make sure that I'm working on the right group. So that's the pen one, and these ones aren't highlighted, so they're probably the wrong one. And it's taken the pen up the top because I grouped it, but you can see that the other one beside it is actually a tremendously large file, which again had a whole lot of things in it, and you can see that this is going to take me right down here until up. Now I see the change of colour. Now I'm going to select the top one that says basic cut, and that one is black. But where it comes up shows me that it's probably a score line. So I'm going to select those and I'm going to see what I've got here. So if it's a score line, again, I'm going to do this in pen. You don't have to do this. You could just put it straight into a score, but I wanted to see what they were. So now I've got green pen that I know that I can put in as score lines. And that's great because I can just simply change those pen lines to score lines. Now, this is a basic cut and it's blue. So now that's interesting. What are we going to do? Why have we got blue lines? And if we look at the blue lines, again, I will put them into pen and I will see if we can get a colour that will override the green. I might just try the blue and see whether that comes up. No, it doesn't show terribly well, so we'll keep going and I'll choose the fuchsia red. It's not going to do my fuchsia red, so let's come back down to here. I've lost my red. There he is, very berry. Now, if we select those red ones and we have a look, we can't see any red ones there at all. So why are the red ones there? Now, I'm not quite sure of that myself. However, we've got these here, and that is score lines. So let's change it to a score line and see whether that makes any difference. And yeah, it does make a little bit of difference. It sort of changed colour. So I think what they've done is they've got double score lines. But we didn't really need double score lines in here. So this is a score line, but you can see that it's also a pen line. So from this point of view, I'm going to close the eyeball on this, and it's not staying in the centre of my mat terribly well, so in front of my canvas. Right, now these green pen lines are also score lines, we decided. So I'm going to select them and I'm going to go over here and I'm going to change the pen to score lines. Now we find the difference. Now I can go back and change the ones that were pen lines into score lines, or I could leave them as pen lines, but I don't see why I should have two lots of pen lines on there. Some people do like double scoring lines, so that makes a big difference. Now, again, if we put this onto the Make It screen, we will have numbers going in all the right direction because we welded them, but you cannot weld together or join either what's called an open path line, and your lines, like your scoring line, are open path lines. So what we're going to do now is we're going to select it all and we're going to go attach. And then when you go through to the line, now there's one more thing we haven't done with this, and that is I said in the beginning that it was coloured green, and there's three pieces with it. So I am now going to go up and I am going to choose a colour. The colour I'm going to choose is green, and you can see I had it welded, so it all nicely changed all my blank spaces, all my white pieces to green. Now, if you don't have it welded, they will change one at a time. If you do have it welded, they will all change together. So this is now attached, and when we take that through to the screen, which we'll take it through because you'll see both the good and the bad of this now, because we should have, if we looked at it properly, that we would have 2 pages. Well, the first one is lots of lines. The second one is lots more lines and words. The third one again. The fourth one again. No, the fourth one is the one we've just done. And that is all attached. You put it in and it'll score, it'll draw your numbers, and it'll cut it out. But as you can see, this takes substantial time, and if you're not really sure how to do them, it does take an extraordinarily large amount of time. First time I did this, I found that it took me 2 weeks to change one file. That's a long time for changing files. Now, if we go to this one, the colour on this one is orange, and I'm going to select the one beside it so that it doesn't take as long. I've got to turn that over there. And I'm going to, where it says attach, I can just close the eyeball in that now. And what I've got in the layers panel now is, yes, I've got that one all attached, and its eyeballs are all closed. However, because I don't need to save it, I want to work on just this one, I could either swap that to another piece. So that's what we'll do. Imagine you're working on 2 pieces and you now want to work on your second mat. I'm going to now go File and, File, New Window. And it's given me a new window here. And yes, I want a new project on there. But in actual fact, what I want is I want to take this one off this mat. So I'm going to select it. I'm going to right click and I'm going to go cut. Now you could either go cut or copy. Now it's moved out of the way, and I'm going to go to here now to the new mat that I've got. I'll just make sure that that's the new mat. And on the new mat, I'm going to go paste, and it's pasted that onto the new mat. And you can see the transfer of this one didn't take very long at all. Now, just to show that that didn't take very long, I'm going to select this one now, and I'm going to select this one and go cut, and I'm going to bring it down, and I'm going to select this mat and make it a bit larger, and I want you to notice how much longer it takes. I know it's only a few seconds, but that can make it quite a big difference. So I think I cut it, so I'm going to have to cut it off this one and go back to the previous screen that I've got in here. And I'm now going to paste it back onto my original one. The reason I'm working on one is because there is so many pieces in here. And the first one I'm going to select, and it's got green up here. Now, from working with this file, I know that these little green pieces are just simply a dot up here as markers. And if I can bring this up to a very large size, you'll see that, yes, that tiny little piece up there is one of the green markers. No, this is the bottom one down here. So if I know that my piece does not need to be changed in size and that it's imported at the right size, and if I select that, it'll tell me it's 11 inches high, and if I bring it down, it's 8.483 wide. Now I know that I've got a little bit of room on either side of that, so that's fine, and it will fit on my paper. Now I can either just select that one and it will take off one of them. However, it's taken with this one, you'll see that, well, you won't see because it's very difficult to see anyway, but it's taken all of them off. And once I do that, I can either leave it there, but leaving it there still clogs up my layers panel. So I'm going to delete it. Don't delete it until you know what you're deleting. Now, the next one is a basic cut and it's black. Oh dear, we got this again. Now, I noticed that this one's down here. Let's see what this one is. Let's change it to pen, go in there, change it to the red, and if we look, we've got a little red score line down there. Great. So these might be score lines, but they're changing them one piece at a time. So maybe we could go to the group and see whether that changes them. Now this is multiple, so what's that going to change? So because we had one piece that was a different colour, we've changed it to pen now, and you can see some of them are red, but some of them are still black. So we're not really quite sure what's going on here. However, let's go down and down, and the pen we can follow down, and as you can see, we're going down and down and down. But that's where that one finishes. And because this is another group, and it says group there, we're going to select this one, and that one's black too. So it makes it very difficult to come and work out, oh dear, we don't know what this one is, because we didn't select group, we only selected the one piece. So now I'm going to have to go back and look at the pen, and this one I'm going to choose a green with. Let's do light green in there. And yes, the light green is also score lines. Now, because you've got green score lines in pen and you've got red score lines, and the red and the green score lines are not on top of each other, what this particular designer has done has allowed you to draw your score lines as well as score your score lines. So these ones are pen and they're in green, so those are score lines. You've got all your numbers there, and we haven't come across the numbers yet, so let's go down here and see when the end of the pen is. Now, even though these are pen, you won't be able to weld these because the pen may or may not be open path. So you'd have to figure that one out, and you see we're still going down the green score lines, which we've now done in pen, and down and down and down. And there are several low poly images in Design Space, and they are, for some people they will be free. I think some people will need to purchase them. And we're still going down with the pen, and you can see that this takes quite a substantial length of time to change. Now, this one is black. I'm picking that this black one is going to be the numbers. So having clicked on that, I do want to click the numbers and have them in a colour that we can see. So we've got green and red there, so let's try pretty blue, and we'll do blue, and yes, all our numbers are in blue. So now what I'm going to do is select them again, and again go weld. And as you see, it does take a little bit of time. It doesn't take very long to actually say I've changed it to pen, but because I've welded it, sometimes I've actually got to click on the screen for it to turn, but these will all weld, hopefully. And there we go. No, it's, did I weld them? Aha. So, okay, let's select the pens, and I may not know, I didn't weld them. I fooled myself into thinking I had, and I didn't. Now, there, now it's welded them, and I'm pretty sure I'll find them at the very top. I'm not going to go back to the very top because this one is I've got it as a cut line and it's red, so we really want these to be score lines unless we can find some more score lines, because these are basic cut lines. Hang on, red. However, these ones that are basic red that she's put in red that we didn't are score lines. And if we change those to red, the red ones to score lines, what you'll find now is that this will actually change to score. And hope change the score and go back up the top again. And you can see that these ones all change to score lines. However, now, if I select the pen lines, and let's go back up, and you can see now where it takes a substantial length of time to go back and forward in these, and we'll hopefully find some at the top. So we'll go back up here, and this is the red pen lines. Now, if we go back up to here, these, we'll select the group. Now, if I use the group and I select the button that the eyeball is and turn the eyeball off, you will see that those disappeared and there's simply just score lines on those ones now. If I turn it back on for that one, they've got the red lines back on. Now, we have a thing that says colour orange. Now, I didn't take out colour orange. I could have done that, but it was finding each of those little pieces that spelt the word colour orange. So I never bothered to do that, although if I'd needed to, I could have taken this out by doing a slice. Because I welded the numbers, I could have taken that out with a slice. But again, it was just another thing to do. Now, the pieces that we were going to change colour are usually down the bottom. So I've now got to come all the way down the bottom. And you can see now with the number of pieces that is actually in here that there was a lot of work changing these around. So before you think, yes, this is an easy thing to do, please just make sure that you're prepared to do the work and pay out for the amount of things that you've got to do with these. Now, this says basic cut. We've got to find the group of basic cut that we want. Oh, go back. There we go. Now, we've got pen, weld, pen. I'm pretty sure that that's the outside cut. And because each of these pieces was put in as a separate piece, the outside cut is not all in one piece, as you saw with the other one. So this has not been unionized or combined as an outside. So again, you've got to find that and then work it out. What I've got here is I've got the green, and that's coloured but not scored. So the other one I've got scored but not coloured, and I've got to work out whether I want to do that, whether I want to score it all and work on a page so that I know which one is the right one or the wrong one, or I can select the green pen before I haven't got it there. I can select, that's the red pen that's there. I now have to find the green pen, and as you can see, these go up and down, and you can spend a lot of money, a lot of time, and work out whether just to work out whether you've got the right pieces in the right place. Now, if I go duplicate, I can now put these green lines on the top of the other green lines, and having done that there, I can now go and select these ones and turn them to score, and I now have green lines that are scored and score lines that are scored. So that is just coming up to where we're nearly at the finish now. Now I go select all, hopefully it selects it all, and I will go attach. Now that is one page of 9 pages like this, and if you've been following along, you'll find that it has taken a substantial amount of time just to do this. It is able to be done, and these designers do some beautiful work. They have done a lot to allow us to put these into Design Space, but please be aware of the work that they create when you're doing these. Now, having done all that, I've actually already done this, so I don't need this one. So what I'm going to show you now is I'm going to get in. Hi, well, the things that I'm going to show you next are quite interesting. If we go to projects and then I search unicorn, I'm hoping that what I will come up with is the unicorn face mask. Now, as you can see, this is a low poly image, and it does have the little pieces that it shows on the unicorn, and then it shows you all the different pieces. Now, this tells me I'm subscribed, but in actual fact I bought this image, and what I want to show you is we've been dealing with low poly images, and you've seen how difficult and how time consuming it is to do some of these. However, what we find in Design Space is, because this has been made for Design Space, and if I show you, if I bring this up to 150, which we can do to look at the mat, you can see that the numbers are all here. There's 38, 39, 35. Now, what you need to do is you just need to match this number with the number on another piece. Now, you'll see that our pieces were also numbered as well, and if we go back to the 75% that it starts with, you can see that it will show you that these are probably white mats rather than grey, but have a look at the things. There's 17 mats in this project, so you can see it's quite a big one. Oh no, maybe they are grey because silver, because this one is white. And this one also has number 1 and number 2 and 3 on it. So you can see that there are pieces in here. There's coloured pieces as well, right down to these ones. And you can see that the numbers are where you can see them. They're not on the outside of the tab, like here or here. They are on the inside, so that when that tab goes onto something else, you will actually be able to see them. Now, if we go to the canvas up here, I'm not sure that it will actually take us. Oh yes, it did. It takes us to the canvas, and we can see the whole thing on the canvas. Now, either way, if we from the make it screen or go up here and select the title, we'll come back down to where all the description is. Now, it tells us in here how many pieces of cardstock we need and in which colour, and it tells us everything else we need. As well as going down here, it tells you Unicorn 3D mask assembly and the headband. Now, this, I'm not sure whether it's actually in here, but if I select the uniform, the assembly, the unicorn mask, it'll tell you which ones are mountain folds and which ones are valley folds. And I'm not quite sure how it differentiates those, but it says the dotted ones and the not so dotted ones. However, you will probably also find it's got P14, pink here, P16. So each of these you will see the head is light grey rather than white. I would have made it in white. Now, these are all the different pieces, and if you look on these, you will see there's two different types of score line on here, and you'd need to come back to these pages so that you could see whether the score lines were mountain folds or valley folds. Once you've worked those out, it's very easy to have this all done, because all of these things are done for you. Now, if you actually print this out, you can hand cut it and put it together that way. But you can see there's quite a lot of instruction on how to put it together and what colours pieces are. So there's quite a lot of instruction actually, because I think we're up to page about 17, 18 now, and so we can go back there. This is a printable file, so you'll find that you actually get good instructions with that. Now, this is the headband, and this goes inside the mask itself, and it gives you the instructions on here for the headband. Now, this says 1, 2, 3, 4. These may be actually in the part itself, and we can go back here and we can have a look. When you're going to do a file like this, just be prepared to spend that little bit extra time. They are quite complex files, and although this says it's an intermediate for 1 to 2 hours, that's probably for someone who knows what they're doing. I tend to find that I take a bit longer than what their times are, but I have a lot of fun doing them. And this is what I'm talking about. I didn't have to spend all the time making these into score lines that I could work out if I needed to work them out, and which ones were which. Now, I think 1 and 3 were, see, there's 2 and 3. I believe this is probably the headband in here. So if you have a look at what you've got in the information that you've got, please read the information, whether it be from Design Space and Cricut Access, or whether it be from the designers who make these products that aren't in Cricut Access, because those instructions are very important. and can make the difference as to whether things go well for you or things don't. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope that it's been some help to you.